Denise Gwen, reading aloud for you from my short story, The Greasy Spoon. Chapter 8. Nick grabbed his cell phone, pulled up Ed's cell number, and typed in WE space R space IN space DNGR space WE space ND space TO space GT space OT space RT space NW. He pressed send, licked his lips. A second later, Ed started with surprise. He kept his cell phone in a leather case on his belt. He touched his cell phone. "Did you just text me?" "Be quiet and read it," Nick said. "What's all this cloak and dagger shit, Adams?" Nick looked away. Beads of perspiration broke out across his brow. They had, he figured, minutes to escape, and then Irene walked toward them with Nick's heaping platter of eggs, toast, hash browns, and bacon, and Ed's large bowl of soup and a grilled cheese sandwich. "Ah," Ed said with satisfaction, "here comes our food." She set their platters down in front of them, straightened up, dusted off her hands, and said, "Enjoy your last meal, fellas." "I'm sorry?" Nick asked. "What'd you say, ma'am?" She cocked her head and gazed at him with surprise. "I said, enjoy your meal. Do you need any ketchup?" Ed picked up the soup spoon and ladled food into his mouth. Oh my, this is delicious." Irene gazed hard at Nick, who finally nodded. "Yes, ma'am, please, I'd like some ketchup." Irene grabbed a bottle of ketchup off a nearby table, dropped it off to them, then eased back over to the table with the farmers. She pulled the pad out of her apron and the pencil from the back of her ear and said, "What'll it be, fellas?" Nick stared at his food. "Go on, eat," Ed said. "Ed, will you please read my text? I'm hungry. I want to eat." "Ed, I want you to read it now." "You want me to read it now?" "Yes." "Oh, dear God. Okay, hang on. Jeezle, if you're going to be a girl about it." Ed pulled out his cell phone, slid his thumb across the screen, and studied the text for a long moment, betraying no emotion. Then he set the phone down onto the table and picked up his spoon. "Ed, just eat your lunch," Ed said, then chortled. "Or if you prefer, your hillbilly dinner." The back of Jeb's neck reddened. "Ed, come on and eat your lunch and then we'll go." Nick gazed at his food. An aroma of comfort and home and fond memories of eating a meal at his grandmother's table wafted past his nostrils, and his belly roiled, and he was suddenly hungry. He picked up his fork. My last meal, my last meal, my last meal. Irene had finished taking the farmer's orders, and on her way back to the kitchen, Ed grabbed his empty coffee cup and held it out. "Ma'am, when you get a chance." "Sure, hun," she smiled. Ed flashed Nick a smile. "There," his look seemed to say. "How bad can it be if the waitress is calling me hun?" Nick pressed his fork into the pillowy mound of egg. He loved the moment when the yolk broke and creamy yellow compote oozed across the plate. But as he pierced the membrane, a deep red, viscous goo oozed out of the cut and seeped across his plate. He looked up at Ed to see his reaction, but Ed was face first into his food, And when he looked down at his plate again, the yolk had turned back to a creamy yellow. His hand trembling, he scooped up some egg, studied it for a long moment, then put it into his mouth and chewed.